Hey guys, coming for Twin Peaks The Return, Part 5, and I was definitely really looking forward to this part. As you guys know, I really haven't been enjoying this mini-series so far. I think it's been really audacious. I think it's just been really game-changing for TV, and I have to say, out of all the parts that we've had, this one felt like the most conventional. Not that that was a bad thing, but this one's still weird, felt a little bit more conventional than the other ones do. It felt a little bit more straightforward and things like that. And I guess it makes sense as time's gonna go on. It's gonna get a little bit less, audacious because we're gonna know the nature of the show. But this one just felt a little more conventional. I still really did love this episode. Still thought this was a great episode overall. But compared to the other four episodes, this one just doesn't hold up as well. Still has some great stuff, but again, just not a ton going on in this one. Not as much going on as you'd think. And let's just get into this episode because there definitely is a lot to talk about. Not as much as some of the other ones, though. We start with Gene and Jake, and they're sitting in a car, and the former is on the phone with this girl, Lorraine, and he's reporting the situation with Doogie, and frustrated, she sends the message Argent to a device. We don't know what that's all about, but clearly there's some sort of message that she needs to send. So Constance, so we see Talbot, Detective McClay, and Detective Harrison. They're observing the John Doe in the morgue. Of course, the John Doe being, I believe, Sam Colby. And Talbot confirms that the decapitation is the man's cause of death, and he presents a ring found inside the body. Remember, the decapitation was that man they found in the bed, and he finds this ring found inside the body. On it is an inscription that reads, "To Dougie with love, Janie E." So now we start to get more of an idea of what's really going on with Dougie. This episode really gets more into his character, and I really do like the way we got more into that. We started to understand more of who Dougie is throughout this episode, and it really does help service, this overall these overall characters. So Cooper's doppelganger then sits in his jail cell. He correctly predicts that his food is coming, and again, we don't know what's up with him, but he is definitely some sort of very weird entity. We don't know what it's all about, but he definitely is not human, and this episode definitely confirms it. He takes his food, he goes to the mirror, noting that Bob is still with him, and at his place of employment, we see Mike Nelson calls in Stephen Burnett, and he's applied for a job. Mike then tells him his resume is inadequate and his forms are actually filled out incorrectly, and he then kicks him out. So we don't really know what that's all about. Why has he kicked this guy out? What's his deal with him? We don't really know. I think that, again, that's something that we're not going to get answered for a while. And again, there's still a lot of plots that seem very unrelated, but I think are eventually going to come together as the show does go on, but we'll have to see. We then see Sheriff Truman. He's talking to Harry on the phone, and he's informed by Lucy that his wife Doris is coming to him, and Doris tells him about her frustration, including this leaky pipe, and it's a really funny scene. She's just going on and on about this leaky pipe and how much it really does annoy her, and I like seeing, again, Sheriff Truman's just a normal sheriff. There's really not much else to him, and just like his, brother, I really did love that, because all these characters on the show are so wacky, and to have Sheriff Truman be like the straight man, I think makes a lot of sense. And again, I like that they're keeping that with this Sheriff Truman. He's still not nearly as good as the other Sheriff Truman. We haven't seen as much of him, so I can't really compare him to the old Sheriff Truman, but I still really like what we're seeing him, and I do like the way the show has found a way to incorporate a Sheriff Truman in the show without actually having the real Sheriff Truman. So we get into this really fun scene involving Janie E, Sonny Jim, and Cooper. Again, this is one of my favorite parts of this mini-series so far. As we know, Cooper is in fact Dougie, and still this episode, he does not have a clue what the hell he's doing, and they leave the Jones home, and it takes her a while to finally get him up, we see, actually. It takes her, like, a very long time. Basically, she's trying to pull him together so he can go to work. She's rattling off information about his casino winnings, the same wings that cost Supervisor Burns his job and got him kicked out of Vegas by Jim Belushi's new character, Bradley Mickham, and it's how it's enough to pay off his huge debt. And off in his own world, Cooper instead is staring off at Sonny Jim, who's sitting in the backseat of their waiting car. He's slowly shedding tears, and we don't know what that's all about, but I feel like Sonny Jim in general, he's kind of like this robotic character, like he doesn't really know what to do, and shortly after, Cooper gets literally dumped off at work. Like, I'm not joking, they literally dump him off, and seeing how Doogie's car is actually still parked back at the house that's currently being patrolled by Vegas' finest scumbags, I thought that was definitely very interesting to see. So, basically, he goes inside and he stands around until Dougie's coworker, Phil Bisbee, comes carrying coffee on his way to a board meeting. And following into the elevator, he literally downs one of the coffees, and we get the classic line of "Damn good Joe." So you can tell that Cooper persona is starting to come out, but it's still not the full persona that we know. So we see Anthony Sinclair. He tells Cooper that he is covered for Dougie's absence, and during the meeting, as Sinclair presents a report, Cooper blurts out that he's lying, but he's not elaborate. He just simply says, "Oh, he's lying," and it causes the boss, Mullins, to have Dougie meet with him after the meeting. Because clearly, I mean, no one just screams out that he's lying. There's clearly more to it than that, and I thought there was just, again, some really fun dark comedy. The show really is relishing in it very well, and I didn't think the show was going to have a lot for a while, but they are bringing back a lot of different kind of humor, but it's still a lot of fun to see. And Mullins actually questions his accusation and gives him case files to assess by the next day. So Mullins kind of feels like he might be onto something, and maybe he actually does have something to say there. So we see Rodney and Mick they come to the Silver Mustang Casino to punish Burns for Cooper's win at the casino, and they want to replace Burns with Warwick. And he tells them to inform them that if Cooper ever returns to the casino, and it seems like this is someone who wants to challenge Cooper. And as we've seen before, Cooper's quite good at this. I mean, even though he's not the main he's not the main person who plays this kind of stuff, he still is quite good, and he sees his mother is passed on drugs. The little boy living in the house across from Dougie's car goes to extreme, and he's shocked away by the gang of youths who try to steal the car, and it explodes, killing several members of the gang, and he runs back to his home. He hears him coming back in, and his mother slowly does start to wake him up and stare at the door. And that scene, again, we don't know what that's all about, what's really going on there, but these clearly are gangsters that are looking for their this gang's like looking for their debt money and things like that, and they want to try to steal their car, and three of their guys are completely incinerated, and he watches the flames from his window. Again, we don't know what that's all about, but I thought there was a really interesting scene overall, and definitely, again, something I think we are going to talk about. Like, what is the significance of stuff like this? We don't really know what that's all about. We just know it's a neighbor across Dougie's house. So in another example of repetition, we see Shelly and Norma. They're still working behind the counter, and I thought it was crazy. I mean, they're still working there for 25 years. Shelly's had the same job. That's insane. And basically, we soon learn that Shelly has a daughter named Becky, and Becky's actually played by Amanda Seyfried, which I thought was really cool to see her here. They've had her cast on the show for a while, but they've had her role sworn in secrecy, and this scene, you really can tell why. Basically, she hits her up for money and then takes off in a Firebird, and this is something that Norma really feels like is a problem. You know, Shelly is way too nice to Becky. This is someone who you can tell, she's constantly giving her money, and Norma goes, Shelly urging her to help Becky rather than continue to enable her. You know, she's just kind of providing Becky what she needs, and Norma feels that this should be more of a learning experience, and I agree. I mean, Becky should not be involved with what she's doing, and Becky is kind of in the same path that Shelly is. You know, she's with the guy Steven. Now, Steven, of course, was the guy that we saw, we saw before that Mike was kind of roasting and things like that, and Stephen Burnett, Becky's actually married to Stephen, again, just like her mother, and it seems to mirror Shelly's prior marriage to Leo, seeing how this guy's a similar bad seed. She jumps in, he whispers, and then turns on the car stereo, and as they drive away, the Paris Sisters' I Love How You Love Me plays, and Becky stares into the sky, looking very delirious and sort of hysterically happy, as though she hadn't seen the sky for a really long time, and it kind of felt very much like Laura Palmer. We know how much Laura was addicted to drugs, and I feel it's going to be the same case with Becky. While Becky, she's very addicted to drugs, I don't know if she's going to end up the same as Laura Palmer, but I feel like they definitely do want to draw a lot of parallels to that, and I really do like the way the show is doing that here. So an auto detailer informs Jay that he found a set of keys for the Great Northern Hotel in her car, and since they have an address on them, she puts them inside a mailbox for delivery. So we don't know what that's about, but we see Cooper. He's pushed out of the elevator at the end of the workday. He goes to the statue he saw that morning, and at the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Station, we get this very long, lengthy scene with Hawk and Andy continuing to sort through files, and this is the kind of scene that I just find kind of random. Like, the whole scene's just them searching through files. There's not really much else to it, and I get Lynch included it in there to be weird, but I feel like this scene, it just doesn't really need to be there. A lot of scenes like that are kind of like that in this episode, and I am starting to wonder, do we really need all these random scenes? Like, this scene just felt very random. We then get one of the best twists, though, I think, of this return, because we've seen Jacoby before, but we finally find out what Dr. Jacoby's actually been behind. It turns out he's actually been a one-man TV station in his trailer. That's actually what he does. He operates his one-man TV station, and he gives this like poetic rants about freedom and conspiracy theories, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. I really did enjoy seeing that. And he hosts as Dr. Amp, and it's viewed by Jerry Horn, who also is smoking a joint, and we also see basically it's this product called Dr. Amp's Gold Shit Digging Shovel, which retails at $30, and we see Nadine, who we see for the first time, is actually watching from what looks like an office desk, and Jerry catches it all from an iPad as he smokes pot in the woods. And again, you guys know I'm not a fan of this character. I don't think that she's very well written or whatever, but I am interested in seeing where they're gonna go. I guess I don't really know where they're really headed with their characters. So, again, I'm not a huge fan of Nadine, but I did think it was really fun to see this side of Jacoby. Jacoby's always been a weird, eccentric doctor, but this has to take the cake for the weirdest stuff we've got with him yet. I mean, he tells his viewers, again, this kind of seems like a message meant for us. Like, it doesn't really seem like something he's telling the viewers. It felt very much like a commercial break, but I do feel it's going to play a much greater, significant role later in the show. So, at the Pentagon, Lieutenant Cynthia Cox informs Colonel Davis that they have received a match on Major Garland Briggs' footprints, who is the 16th match in 25 years, we find out. And we kind of start to get the sense that Major Briggs might not be dead, and I think that might actually be true. I don't know if he's actually dead. And in Buckhorn, South Dakota, Davis then doubts the legitimacy of the match, but he says that if it is indeed truly Briggs that has been identified, that the FBI must be informed, because if this truly is the guy, I mean, this could work wonders for them, really, if this is him. So the band Trouble then plays at the Bang Bang Bar at Richard Horn smokes underneath. We see a no smoking sign, and an employee asks him to quit, and the off-duty deputy Chad Braxford takes over, but he ends up taking a bribe from home, and a girl from the next table over, it's the girl from the next table over, and she asks him for a light. He grabs her. He threatens to assault her, so we don't really know what's going on there, with the Bang Bang Bar. I thought this was going to focus more on who they actually needed to recruit, because remember, they needed someone to take down, evil Cooper, because they know, obviously, this isn't the Cooper that they know. I thought this was going to focus more on that, but that's not what we get here. We then get the weirdest scene, though, with, I think, the Doppelganger that we've gotten yet, which was at the same time, I think, the best scene. I really did love this scene here. We see the action actually doesn't end at the Roadhouse, but back in South Dakota, Doppelganger is given his one phone call, and he uses it to fuck with the warden, asking if she should call him Mr. Strawberry. So you can tell the Doppelganger, he's just kind of there to mess with people, and it seems to strike a nerve. He uses the phone's electricity to send a message that the cow jumped over the moon to an unseen person. I'm guessing it's Jefferies, because we know he definitely has contact with Jefferies, and he may or may not be at the other end of the black box with two red lights blinking alone in Argentina, and once the message is received, the box dissolves into a little clump of metal, and Jefferies is very similar to that of Diane, where he's kind of like this unseen entity that we know that the Doppelganger is in pursuit of, but we don't really know what he really is or what that's really all about. But we see Agent Preston. She examines Cooper's file, compares his fingerprints from before his 1989 disappearance and from the Doppelganger's booking at the federal prison, and troubled, she quickly leaves her desk, because obviously they don't really match at all, and she knows very well that there's something up with this guy. I mean, this guy, he's not Cooper. That's not who he is, and I love the way that Preston is starting to put things together here. But we see in Buenos Aires a device then beeps and implodes, which that was insane to see, the way it just kind of beeped. We don't know what that's all about. But we see Cooper. He continues to observe the statue. We don't really know what the deal is with that, but that is the way this episode ends. Let's just get into this one and where I think we're going to go from here. So overall, guys, like I said, not as much to talk about with this episode, but I still really did enjoy this one overall. Let's first talk about Cooper, because again, what a vulnerable position he's really in. He's Dougie, and he doesn't really know what he's doing. A lot of people are really shady. They can see that he's, they think he's acting very shady and things like that, because he is, and, the whole thing with him and this statue, I have no idea what that's really about, if it's connected to the Black Lodge, if it has anything to do with the Black Lodge at all, or if I'm just overthinking it. I honestly don't really know, but we'll have to see really what that's all about. I think that definitely is going to be very interesting. As far as the whole thing going on with Doppelganger, again, I do think that his, the mysterious Jefferies is very similar to that of Diane. Remember, Diane was the person that Cooper would always narrate stuff to on the tapes and things like that. I think that is kind of the Doppelganger's Diane, and I could be wrong, but I'm interested in seeing really if we find out more with that. And a lot of people are thinking that the person that they could be searching for could possibly be Diane. And I think it would be cool to finally see Diane in this series. We've heard so much about her. It would make sense to finally recruit her. She has to find those tapes eventually. She has to eventually find where he's located. So I wouldn't be surprised if Diane is the one that might help them actually figure this out. We can see that Preston is starting to put things together, though. And she really is very good at her job, I have to say. And you can tell why Cole had a lot of, he really did admire her. You can understand why he really does admire her as much as he does, because she is very good at what she does. I mean, she really started to put things together, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of that really does go down with her. If we do end up going in this direction where she does find out what's going on, or is she being steered completely the wrong way? I mean, it could really go either way, so we'll have to see really what's going to happen there. I think that overall, again, is very interesting with what that's really all about. I'm really interested in Shelly's story, how she has this reckless daughter who's kind of like her, kind of not, but it's very much like Laura Palmer, and I don't know if Becky's going to die, but I really am interested in Becky and Steven's overall relationship. We'll have to see more of what's going on there. I think it definitely is very interesting. I think definitely it's one of the most interesting parts of the episode, actually. And then also, let's talk about Warwick, because Warwick is clearly someone who's ready to challenge Dougie we see he's ready to challenge Dougie to the casino, and we know how good the Cooper really is at that, so we'll have to see how that really does go down, because I don't think Warwick really understands how good Cooper really is at this kind of stuff, and we'll have to see the way that really does go down. The other thing to talk about, of course, is in fact what's going on with the whole thing going on with Dr. Jacoby was quite a great reveal. I actually really did enjoy it. I thought it was really funny overall. I'm interested in seeing really what that's all about, and I'm not interested in seeing Nadine again. I never was really a huge fan of her character, but maybe they'll use her better now. I don't really know. I just felt like she was just kind of there to have like a lot of physical humor, and I hope they really do scale back on that this season, because I really did like some stuff with Nadine. I do hope they do focus on that a little bit less. So again, I want to like her character. Maybe I'll like her more this miniseries, but we'll have to see how that does go down. And I guess the only thing to really talk about has to do with, I honestly, I think that's kind of it. Other than that, guys, my big problem this episode, like I said, is that there were just a lot of scenes that felt very much disconnected, and yes, I get it that he wants to do some truly random scenes, but a lot of this just felt a little too random. Like, he's just kind of throwing in basically whatever shit he has. He's not really thinking about, what's actually good for this show, and I think definitely the show is still great. I am still really loving where we are headed with this miniseries, but this particular episode, I just feel like a lot of it felt random for the sake of being random. It didn't really feel like it needed to be as random as it was, but I still really did enjoy this episode. I am going to give Twin Peaks: The Return Part 5 a 4 out of 5 or a B+. So, guys, for me, this episode, The Return of Twin Peaks. Let me know what you guys thought of this part overall, left your thoughts in it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which I think will be for the cast recording of Hello Dolly. Look forward to a lot of Tony reviews throughout the week, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.